there. This is Thomas Eriksen, or Thomas Eriksen, if you want, for the English-speaking public. I am currently transmitting from the bomb shelter. Norway is currently under lockdown following the outbreak of the coronavirus. I don't really know why I wanted to do this. I am actually I have become a fan of podcasts actually. So I've been following a few the past couple of years, and today I was on my bicycle on my way home, and it just hit me. Why not just sit down and try to gab into the microphone for a while, and see what happens. I have to admit, I had a couple of beers, of course, and one thing led to another, as they say. And I don't really know what to call the thing either. Maybe perhaps just call it, for now, I will call it the Thomas Eriksen podcast. Just like that. As I told you, Norway is under a complete lockdown. That is probably what it looks like for people outside of Norway, but it's not 100% correct. Since of today, actually, all schools and kindergartens and kind of many commercial and communal offices are actually closed down in fear of the virus spread. But I have a regular day job, and I have been to work today, and I will go to work on Monday. This is a Friday night currently. And for those of you who do not know who I am, I am the creator and sole composer and songwriter and whatnot in the Norwegian black metal band Mork, which is not related to Mork and Mindy, which some, I guess, Americans tend to point to in various YouTube comment areas, which is, I guess they think it's funny, but I don't really care because it's a different word altogether. Mork is a Norwegian made up word by myself, actually. It's taken from the Norwegian word for rotting or decay, which is morken. And I just got rid of a couple of letters, back in the day. And it became Mork. I drew my logo and started recording demos, I think this was actually after I recorded my first track, actually. But let's return to the current day. This goddamn epidemic that's going on has actually infected the whole world, not just the music industry, but everything. But since my life is basically centered around the music industry part of the world, I obviously tend to notice those things first and foremost. And as of this recording, my band Mork was actually, I don't know, what time is it now? It's 11:30 at night. I suppose right about now we were supposed to go off the stage in Bergen. Our show there tonight was cancelled because of the obvious. It was actually in the planning for a long time to do this show. It was supposed to be our first show together with the old school black metal band Mortem, which recently got back together and recorded an album, and actually got signed to the same label as us, Peaceville Records. And we got actually I got contacted, I think, by the vocalist Marius Wold. He reached out to us to perhaps starting gigging a bit together, and this was supposed to be the first show, but luck would have it that it was not to be this time. And I see, on Facebook and the socials that other bands and huge festivals and big tours are getting cancelled left and right. And that worries me quite a bit, because 2020 was actually starting to stack up with big things for Mork, We have 2 full tours and several festival spots. And the first casualty was obviously this show in Bergen, which was a club show at the Inside Rock Cafe. And straight after this cancellation, the second casualty came along, which was the dark Easter metal meeting in Munich, Germany, which was supposed to be during Easter, obviously. That one was hanging in a thin thread for a couple of days, and then it was the kill shot, it was cancelled. But we have been contacted by the festival, and they have actually postponed it, so it will reappear and happen next year, same time, and basically with the same lineup, I guess, and think that Mork will probably be on the same bill. So that's a good thing, But following this, there's May. We have our full tour of Europe with Winter Filleth, which will be, or would be, who knows, our very first full tour of Europe in a nightliner. And I would really hate to see that get cancelled, but I have both feet on the ground, and I realize that it's pretty close to this epidemic that's going on. So most likely it will not be, but as other cancelled shows, festivals, and tours, I guess it will be postponed, in the worst case scenario. Later on in the summer, we have we will return to the Imperium Festival here in Halden, actually, our hometown, and we will play. I need to grab my phone here to see the concert list. Let's see here. Hold on. Yeah, we were supposed to play in Bulgaria in May as well. That was just before the tour, but that one got cancelled. We will play at something. I think this will be kind of cozy, actually. It's a small festival out in the woods outside of. It's in Trøndelag, Norway, which is like, if you heard about Trondheim, it's thereabouts, but even further into the valleys and the forests. It's a festival called Totsås Rock in Lierne. We will appear there in July, hopefully. And following that will be the infamous. This one is a big one for me and for the band because this will be the first ever time appearing at the infamous Wacken Open Air Festival, which is, I don't know, it's kind of a mecca, for metal bands and rock bands. And we were lucky enough to get a spot on there, so I really hope that this virus bullshit will blow over before that. After Wacken, we have a show in Poland, in Piskowice. I'm so sorry, I can't pronounce the name of the city, but it's a NCM festival. That will be a good one. I was told that we are to arrive a day or two in advance, and we will be able to visit Auschwitz, which is not a barrel laughs, obviously, but it's an interesting place to get to visit because personally I have never been there. And after this comes the Latin American tour, which is a full tour, headlining Mork tour, actually. And we will go through, Brazil, Uruguay, Argentina, Paraguay, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Mexico. Really looking forward to that one, because we have never been over there either. But, this goddamn virus thing, you never know what happens. It bugs me, because I just saw that, Inferno Festival in Oslo was cancelled as well. That's every Easter in Oslo. Most of you probably know that. But for the ones who do not know, it's an Easter happening, which is it's a tradition. And for several years now, actually, I have appeared there as a DJ, where I rig up my laptop computer at the roof of Rockefeller at that bar up there, and I spin digital records for some hours, one of the nights, which has been good times this far, and I was scheduled to reappear there now this year, actually, 1 or 2 nights before the Munich show, but that went into the toilet as well. So that's a sad one. Inferno is always a good time for me personally. It's not typical black metal mentality to be social, I guess, and be happy, be comfortable around people. But it's such a great gathering, Through the years, I have gotten to know a lot of people and fellow artists and stuff like that, and we get together and hang out during the festival days. Last year was actually the high point of all of my years there. Mork released album number 4, Det Svarte Juv, which was timed perfectly for the Inferno weekend. The band was booked to play. We played that Saturday, and we had a release on, I think it was on Friday, the release. We had a listening party at Kniven, where we also launched our then new beer, actually. It was a dark stout with chili tastes, brewed by Grünerløkka Brygghus, and my friend Kjell Pop is his alias, I think, or nickname hereabouts. Kjetil Johnsen. Thanks for that, Kjetil. And we had a signing session, and we had several events, smaller events going on around in and around the release of the album, which was a cool thing, a good way to mark it being spewed upon the world. But considering all of 2020 may be in shutdown completely with everything cancelled and people getting stuffed into quarantines and hiding behind masks and rubber gloves. I'm actually quite positive because there's stuff going on with my music and my band behind the curtains, so to say. Uh, just today, actually, I released a vinyl test pressing of a upcoming release, which is not that far away, actually. It's pretty close. I received the test pressing just to give my blessings, just to make sure it sounds okay, and we're all set to go ahead with the printing. And it sounded the way it was supposed to sound, to put it like that. And I gave my okay. And Peaceville, which is the home of all my albums right now, will release this pretty soon. Uh, I know I'm teasing a bit now, but I can't really tell what it is, I can't say because it should be announced in a proper way, not just me blabbering between sips of beer, which I will pop right now. Hang on. Obligatory. Local beer, so to speak. It's Borg beer. It's actually from the neighboring city of Sarpsborg, which that's a city I guess many of you have heard about, the black metal fans out there. Sarpsborg. Live in Sarpsborg, that's a pretty famous Mayhem bootleg, which has come as an official release recently. So that city or town, is it a city or a town? It holds some black metal history. Sarpsborg has the history of the Slayer magazine and its founder, Metallion. And it was also the location of the infamous Mayhem gig, obviously. And several other black metal bands has come out of there. And I think it was kind of a hang around spot as well back in the day, but I can't really tell because I was born in 1984, and as I know it, I think that was also the birth date or year of the band Mayhem. So I'm pretty much as old as Mayhem is. So obviously I was not around when things starting to smell burnt back in the early 90s. I came along a bit later, so I guess you could. I don't know what the hell you can call the wave I'm a part of. I don't even consider Mork a part of a wave at all. But if it would be anything, I guess it's, I don't know, third or fourth. I have no idea. I started to make black metal because it felt naturally to do so. Uh, I grew up in Halden and got into music, and when I discovered black metal and metal in general, nobody really did it. Halden doesn't have any metal scene. And back in 2004, when I started Mork, there was no metal bands around, and there was at least no black metal bands. So it was all me. I was sitting alone in my bedroom in my parents' house, on my internet connection, just trying to find out what this black metal thing was about. What is this mysterious, dark, and dangerous and scary thing? And after a little while, I just starting to compose riffs with that sound, and I remember that I started to evolve my vocal cords, or I didn't evolve the vocal cords, but I started to learn the technique to be able to sing like that. Black metal is well known for being a bit shrieky. It's the grimness. It's the grim vocals. It's called. The term is grim vocals. Death metal has the low, guttural vocals. The Cookie Monster stuff, and black metal is more high pitched and demonish. And I remember some hours with coughing and saliva and shit going on, and gurgling. But I started to get a hang of it, and I recorded demos just by playing the riffs on a tiny amp through a effect board, only using the gain, obviously. And I was recording it into my old PC through a crappy. It was a song microphone, but it was a really cheap one, the kind with a cord that you can't detach, and an on and off switch, which I think the membrane was broken too, because there's like this pop filter with an steel kind of cover sitting protecting the membrane, and that fell off. But I managed to get the sound from the guitar and into the studio recording software, as well as my voice. You know what? Talking about it now, I actually remember what I did with the vocals, because I had these popping sounds and mouth noises, because I was singing directly into the membrane of this microphone. I actually pulled the cover of one of my stereo speakers and held it up towards the microphone as a pop filter. Fun, I just remember that, because that has been gone since then in my mind. And I remember I didn't actually own a keyboard. I borrowed a keyboard from one of my old friends from Isebakke, where I'm from, where I grew up. He later played bass in Mork. He played at our first band rehearsals and at our first gig. But back to the story. I borrowed his keyboard, and what I was mainly after here, I guess you can imagine now. I was after drum sounds, because with one shitty microphone, I couldn't really record a drum kit. You know what? That's bullshit too. This is actually the first time I've been mentioning this ever, I think. But before I recorded the first Mork tracks under the Mork name, I actually recorded, I think, there were some tracks with the current Mork live guitarist Alex, actually. We jammed some black metal originals in the basement of my parents' house, where I actually played my father's drum kit, and Alex played the guitar. And this same shitty broken microphone was lying in the stairwell nearby the room we were actually playing in. Luckily, the cable that was not detachable was long enough to go from my room, which was on the top floor. It was on the third floor of the house, and it went all the way down into the almost the bottom of the stairwell to the basement and the room we were jamming in, And we recorded that, but that has remained in the archives. We called it was a band. It was supposed to be a band. We called it Skogdjup, or Skogdjup. It was. So that was actually pre-Mork, and I'm going to be even more honest now and tell you that even before that session, I had another black metal one man project actually, where I recorded about, I don't know, 4 or 5 tracks. And this was I guess right after I started checking out black metal, and I was, lost in between punk rock and metal, and was finding my way. This stuff is probably terrible if I dig it up today. And I remember when I discovered black metal, I found, Bursum and stuff like that, and I just thought to myself, oh, it's black metal band. It's supposed to have this at the ending of the band name. So I called this band or one man project Scrotum. Scrotum. Very clever, right? I remember recording tracks actually the same way I was telling you about early Mork recordings. It was a tiny amp, the same shitty microphone, and the pop filter thing. No, actually, no vocals on that one. There were no vocals. But now I will come back to what I digressed a lot, but it ties together neatly now, because the way I recorded drums for the early Mork demos and the Scrotum demos was actually using a borrowed keyboard with the drum synth sounds. And the way I did that, I put the shitty microphone onto the speaker of the keyboard, and I recorded bass drum and snare and toms in one take, and then I had to make another track and make a new take with hi-hat, ride, and cymbals and stuff like that. It's actually quite funny to look back now to those sessions and that time. How many years is it? It's like 16 15, 16 years back. For an older person, I guess 15 years is not that long, but considering myself turning 36 now, I was about 20, when I recorded that stuff. So that's a long way back for me. But I digress away from what I do not know, because this was just a shot in the dark sort of thing. What do you do when the country you live in is in so-called lockdown, and you're hiding in your bomb shelter, to pass the time? But I gave it a shot, and thanks a lot for listening. Let's see now if there will be another episode of this. Talk later. Skål!